Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to episode 143 of Knife AQ, the series where I answer all your knife questions, sharp or dull. And this week, amongst our topics, we're going to be looking at the fastest pocket knife in the world. All right, folks, if you're new here, the deal with this series is we take questions that have been left in our comments section and expand on them and put them in the video front and center. So if you've got a question that you want answered, what knife questions are burning a hole in your brain? Is that what questions do?
They can.
If you got one, leave it in the comments section below, and it'll stand a chance of getting picked in a future episode. First question this week comes from Baby Shane. Love the channel, great job on every video. Thank you, sir. A coworker loves my red version, Lion Steel Karambit with its pocket deployer. That's the LE1, collaboration with Ernest Emerson right here. It's a little too niche for him, gaudy and expensive. What's the next best choice at a lower price and smaller, while still having a pocket deployer? We cut a lot of straps and cardboard, and I'm slowly convincing everyone that my Magna Cut with custom center of the blade serrations is unbeatable. Thanks. I like the idea of that. So, if you were to add serrations right here in the middle of that recurved blade, that hawkbill shape here, that's really kind of, leaning into the strengths of what a recurved edge like that can do, which tends to kind of gather material into the edge as it cuts. And with serrations right there, man, I could see that really being very effective, especially at pallet straps and that sort of thing. I'm guessing you work in some kind of warehouse environment potentially. Karambit could be a decent choice, because the other thing that's nice about that for those pallet straps, real easy to get underneath them and kind of lever up through the strap and cut through, pull. Very, very nice thing. And of course, when talking about speed and ease of deployment, we have here the original Emerson opener, this being, of course, a licensed Emerson, or a collaboration design with Ernest Emerson, the guy who pioneered this here feature. Originally actually designed for tactical uses as a safety stop for, to catch an opponent's blade, essentially. But the Special Forces folks he was selling those knives to discovered that if you're unfamiliar with the wave, what it does, or what it can do, is when you draw it from your pocket, angle it so that that hook catches the hem of your pants, and when you pull the knife from the pocket, the blade is rotated open and locked into place. When it comes to fast access to a blade in a pocket knife scenario, there is nothing quicker than the wave that I am aware of. Fixed blade can probably be quicker if you can get to it more quickly than this, but man, a quick acting Karambit like this can live right in your pocket and be good to go. Not just useful for tactical situations, though, as our friend Baby Shane, maybe there's some child labor laws being violated here. Why are you letting babies work in warehouses? Anyway, for your friends, go a few different ways with this. And first of all, let's take a look at how hard it is to stack Karambits on a table in a neat line. The serrations thing got me thinking. This is not quite the right answer, because you wanted a little smaller than your LE1, but the Cold Steel Tiger Claw comes in a serrated version, so you wouldn't even have to mod it to achieve the result you're after. But it is bigger, and even though it is exceptionally good, it's also a bit more expensive. It's about $120 compared to the Lion Steel's normal price of just over $200. So it is cheaper than that, but maybe not as cheap as you want. Let's look at true budget options. Two come to mind. One of them is going to need a little bit of help right out of the box, and I'll get to that. But first, the Browse Enforcer. We've got this on sale right now for about $45. You've got a D2 blade, very aggressive forward rake or forward angle to the way that tip presents itself, and only comes with one pocket clip, and out of the box it is set up for left-hand carry for typical Karambit grips, which is an inverted grip, like so. But you've got these serrations essentially on the spine that work as a pocket deployer. You can grab and open and be ready to go. Again, No right-sided pocket clip included in the package, so you'll have to do something about that. Maybe contact Browse if you want something for that, but still a good option and built pretty well. The next one I would mention, I think anyway, has kind of set a bit of a new standard in the affordable Karambit realm. It does not have the pocket deployer right out of the box, but we can mod it to get there without too much and without being destructive either, actually. The Kershaw Outlier. It is an assisted opening Karambit, and as you can see, no pocket deployer, but we do have an oversized thumb disc and a flipper tab, and that oversized thumb disc, which is not spine mounted, but it's mounted here from the side, is the key to how we're gonna get to a pocket deployment method. What we're gonna do is get rid of the thumb stud. Just get rid of it. Fairly easy to do on this, I would say. You've got Torque's driver head there visible on the backside and a very broad and knurled disc on the front. So you should be able to, pop that out of there. And then we do a thing pioneered by those crazy Spyderco fanboys out there who have so commonly fitted a zip tie to the opening hole in their Spydercos to get a wave-like opener. You could do that with this. And it is a little bit smaller than the Enforcer right there, a little bit less bulky, easier to carry. Because that's the thing too, like bulk-wise compared to the LE1, it is smaller, that Browse I mean, but it's heavier feeling anyway. It's got a bit more bulk to it, whereas the Outlier is a bit more nimble, gonna be easier to carry, gonna take up even less room in the pocket. Here, check out the folded profiles between the two. May not look huge on camera, but it's actually pretty dramatic. It's a decent bit thinner as well. But yeah, will require a little bit of a mod, but I think the Outlier is great. And it could work well for you as well. How did I have these stacked here? See, this is difficult, man. How did I do this?
We'll go to the tape.
We'll go to the tape. So if the Browse isn't quite the way you want to go and you don't want to worry about modding the Outlier, but like I said, you talked about modding with serration, so I'm considering modding fair game in this. But if you don't want to go with that, you are going to have to spend a little bit more money. You can get for about $100 the CRKT Provoke, the Grivery versions with their kinematic opening arms.
And safety orange.
And safety orange, actually very important. Well noted, Thomas. Now, this may not appear to have a pocket deployer, and it may not appear to have a typical pivot either, and that's because it doesn't. The kinematic action here is these two rotating arms. It does a couple of things. One, it does provide pocket deployment. It is, a right side only carry. However, you're not gonna be able to reverse this. But rather than, a wave-like hook on the spine, you actually use the back hinge right here that normally, you can push with your thumb like so, but works equally well as a pocket deployer if you pull it out towards the rear of the hem of your pocket, like so. The other nice thing from a safety standpoint on these is you've got more points that would have to fail catastrophically instead of just one point that would have to fail catastrophically for a potential bad news situation. And even if you were to have one of these pivot points fail, the likelihood of it being able to actually fold closed towards your fingers is a lot smaller than on those other Karambits right there. So that's kind of nice too. It is a little more difficult to close one-handed. In fact, it's not something we typically even recommend, but it's a little more fiddly, it can be done. Something to consider as well. For more money, since we're talking about the subject, I want to get up to kind of what we consider the kind of like the default standard, which is some of the Fox folding Karambits coming in about $130. What the heck, I'll go ahead and show that right here. Italian-made standard bearers in the decently priced Karambit range. Not quite affordable, definitely not budget. I'd argue that they are attainable at $130. You might have to save a little bit depending on your budget, but it's not an astronomical price. They're built super well. They've got a ton of different options. You've got liner locks, waves, flippers, blade cutouts, plenty of ways to open them, and they're all just smartly designed and feel like really smartly sized This one has green micarta and 690 on the blade steel. Plenty of options are available though. But in between those two, the Provoke is already, kind of knocking on the door of that $130 price point. We've got a couple in between to show. The Boker Hell, recently released, I think it was this year actually. This comes in about $114. You got a 154 cm blade, not too aggressive of a hawkbill shape. For some of those folks that you may be trying to recommend this to, that could actually be a decent thing because it will be a little bit easier to maintain, sharpen that edge than a steeper recurve. In fact, a more rounded recurve. The Browse has a little bit of that too, but this Boker even more so. But that could be a good option. You've got G10 handles, G10 ring on this as well, as opposed to metal. So it's pretty comfortable, helps keep the weight down a little bit, and you've got that screw-on pocket deployer right there, in addition to a flipper tab as well. Really nice. And the other one, recently released, re-released this year under the Civivi brand, used to have the high-end frame lock knife versions of the Incisor. Now we've got the Incisor 2 in the Civivi lineup with a button lock mechanism. So you can do that sort of thing if you wish. In addition to that, you do have the pocket deploy, blade cutout, and flipper tab. You've got a pocket clip set up on the correct side for right-handed use in an inverted grip, and it is reversible as well. And that button lock is probably the most, what we got here on the table, this is gonna be the most lefty-friendly version, I would say, because of the lock specifically. But they're built really well. Has a really cool look as well. Aluminum handles on these, Nitro V blades. That will do the trick also. Cool question. Hope that helps. Next up, Danny, Danielle, Bob. It's a shared account, I'm assuming. Hey DCA, I am looking to add some camp kitchen knives to the chuck box. What would you recommend? Sheaths are mandatory, some stainlessness preferred, ability to do double duty in other chores appreciated, but these are primarily kitchen knives on the go. Thanks. Well, there's an easy answer for camp kitchen use, especially something that may just live in a box, in between camping trips. Decently affordable, not cheap, but pretty well affordable, and just a bang-on great answer. The Victorinox Fibrox handled kitchen knives. You don't have any tang seams or rivets to get loose or for bacteria to get into. That's a nice thing. Really solid stainless steel options. Grab one of these and grab a blade safe, pop it on there, throw it in that chuck box, and you're good to go. But that's too boring of an answer. That's too simple of an answer, even if it's the quote unquote right one. But since you mentioned stuff that could do double duty, that's what's interesting here. So that's what I'm gonna try and focus on some options for you. One way to go, especially if you're gonna do, if you ever do any kind of fishing on your camping trips, is some kind of boning or fillet knife that could do your food prep and do your fish butchery as well. But one in particular, one type of style, would be like this White River Step Up. US made, S35VN, 8.5-inch blade. It's about $175 right now with rich light handles. It's really cool. And in addition to having a little bit of flex for that fillet knife stuff, because of the offset handle and the drop, this is not a terrible impromptu chef knife. You got knuckle clearance, you can do kind of rocking type stuff. It's flexible, yes, but you've got enough rigidity where onions, potatoes, that sort of thing, cutting through sausages. It's a lot of the stuff I wind up cooking at camp anyway. No problem with something like this. And it comes with a Kydex sheath. It doesn't add a whole lot of extra bulk either. Pop that in there. Well, why don't we pop that in there? And that's gonna fit in that food prep box, no problem. Cool line cutter feature here, cut out in the Kydex too, if you're using this as a actual fillet knife. That could be really fun as a potential double duty thing that could still live in there and do your chefy food preppy stuff. Another genre that's a potential option is cleavers, like your meat cleavers. I've actually taken an Ontario 7-inch Old Hickory meat cleaver. Yeah, Old Hickory, Ontario, you know what I mean. Now I don't have that Old Hickory here, but I do have this Victorinox option here, just by way of an example. And yeah, you can do some cutting board type stuff, some heavier type stuff. These aren't precision instruments in terms of what you're going to do. You can see the geometry is pretty thick, but that thick geometry will allow you to chop wood, do some wood splitting with it as well. They don't come with a sheath, however, typically. So you do what I do. You can make your own, or you can go with something like the SE cleaver, the expat cleaver. Here it is. It's about $175. Carbon steel here, not a stainless. I know you mentioned that. That Victorinox is stainless, however. Make a custom sheath for that, though. Definitely even less of a, like I said, not it's more of a blunted instrument, even though it's got a very sharp edge on it. It's not a precision kitchen tool for most camp type stuff. If you're hacking through bone at camp, yeah, go to town. But this is a really fun, really sturdy thing to play around with at camp. We actually showed this in a video on camp knives, and there's a little section in that video focusing on camp knives that can do some kitchen use. We'll leave a link to that up here in the corner if you want to check that out. For that matter, we also did a video on everyday carry folders and fixed blades that could do some food prep type of stuff as well. So we'll have a link to that, either here in the corner, right behind the other one, or we'll link both of them in the description as well. Those could give you some other ideas. A couple more to talk about. Those genres will work really well, like I mentioned, but there's a couple kind of outside potential options that you might find interesting. One is the Tops Frog Market Special. There's two sizes of this. This is the 5.5 inch, the smaller version, that comes in about $140. Again, not stainless. Apologies there as well. But this is modeled after a Vietnamese, fishmonger's knife, essentially. A style of knife that they would have used for, filleting fish, potentially, as well as just any other kind of food preppy task in that type of scenario. Just really slicey. Could make a decent hunting knife if you are doing things where that actual pointy tip, as opposed to a more rounded belly, might come in handy. That could be an option. And just because I'm silly and want to show another non-stainless option, even though you asked for stainless options, this would be a cool project. This is another, bringing mods back into the picture here. The Marbles Bolo Camp Cleaver. Hear me out. There are sheaths available for this. The knife itself, machete itself, is about $15. The sheath is another $10. These sheaths are actually pretty nice for $10, and they come with sharpening stone and 2 pockets, which is pretty cool. Now, this, to do the job for me, would require a little bit of modding, but the blade has what it takes. It's a bit Nessmucky in its shape, as you all know, or many of you know anyway. I like a Nessmuck, but it's thin enough. You could do slicey things with it, and if you hang the handle off the edge of the cutting board or table you're working on, it can do rocking stuff as well. It's actually kind of hypnotic. It feels really great. Anyway, I would go ahead and mod it a little bit though. These things are decently solid for the price, but they're not, fancy. The fit and finish is not high end at all. Wooden handles here, I would probably wind up squirting some epoxy or glue down in the cracks to bolster things a bit, and then shaving it down so we met the tang and reshaping the handle so it fit my hand a little bit better. To me, that sort of thing is fun, but I know not everyone's going to want to do something like that. But because it's something that I may wind up doing anyway, I wanted to talk about it. Should I do it? I should probably do it. I like the idea. But anyway, check those out. Check out the linked videos we talked about, and hopefully that gives you some ideas for your next trip, and in happy camping as well. Well, now we come to our lightning round for today. First question is from Stillwell. Another shared account, perhaps?
Probably.
DCA, what is the best scissor for pocket carry to trim the nose hairs and get your sexy on? Well, I don't know anything about that last part, let's be honest. If you just want a pair of scissors, my favorite compact pair right now is the Slip and Snip, made in USA, original scissors, about $15 right there. really nice. Blunted tips, but the jaws actually work fairly well as long as you're not straining them beyond what a small pair of scissors should be asked to do. And then folder right up and you're good to go. If you just want a pair of scissors, that's what I would do. But my choice for this would actually be the Victorinox Classic SD. Ounce for ounce, I think this is one of the best little grooming tools you can get. Because beyond just the pair of scissors, which you have here, it's small enough to do your nose hairs, certainly. I've used Victorinox scissors to trim up my beard. Maybe I should have done that before getting on this video. But on top of that, you've got the nail file, which could keep your fingernails clean. And that pair of scissors, this whole thing actually is smaller than your typical pair of fingernail clippers, but the scissors can clip your fingernails and then clean it up with the nail file right there. You've got a blade, which can be honed to a very sharp edge, which can shave some errant whiskers even. You've got a toothpick and tweezers for plucking and tweaking and doing all that other thing. All in a space that is smaller than that other pair of scissors. You'll be able to do bigger scissor stuff with the slip and snip, but how big is your nose really?
Depends on the nose.
How big is your nose hairs really? I love this color too, actually, this Tuscan Sun. It's a really cool translucent yellow. But yeah, any of the non-ALOX classic SDs, what do they go for nowadays? Like 18 bucks? This one's like $22, so it depends on which version you get. So much grooming potential in a small package, and it can open boxes and turn some screws on top of that as well. So that's a winner in my book. Next question is from Greg M963. Hey DCA, what have you found is the best way to remove packaging adhesive from your knife blades? I have multiple knives that have accumulated gunk and need cleaning. Do you use the same solution for stainless and carbon? Any kind of abrasive pads or solvents that you recommend? Actually, I feel like I may have answered a question similar to this before, but it's a quick and easy one. I like rubbing alcohol. Like the 90-some% whatever is my preferred. That can kind of break down adhesive pretty easily, and I'm always a fan of stuff that can do more than one job if it's something I'm carrying with me most of the time, which I actually do. A little spritzer of alcohol works great for hand sanitization if you need that. If you need to sanitize a blade or needle or something, like if you're popping a blister, doing any kind of like quote unquote medical work, can also help with fire starting if you need it to. So that's my preferred thing because it does a lot more than just helping with the tape, gunk, and residue, and use it all the time. Love it.
It's always a brake cleaner.
Harder, less useful as an everyday carry, I would say.
But I always have it in my garage.
Because you need it, don't
Yes,
you? We don't need to get into your heaps nowadays, today. Not today, anyway. Now we come to our final question of the day, which is, of course, our most serious question of the day, which comes from Culture Stress. What knife do you bring igloo camping? Most serious answer only, please. Well, the answer is very simple. You want to go with the Ontario Ice series, particularly the Glacier. Right there. Just don't set it down near the Glacier, because the blue will probably blend into some of the hues that you will find out there. Well, that's all we've got time for today. Make sure to leave your questions down in the comments, and if you had some alternate suggestions for our folks today, we'd love to hear your suggestions down in the comments as well. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives, check out the links in the description. Those are going to take you to KnifeCenter.com, where of course we've got our long-running knife rewards program still growing strong, letting you earn free money on a future knife when you buy one of these knives today. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, and that's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing off. See you next time.